Hi everyone, today let's talk about Lululemon. It's been a long time since I've talked about this company. The last time I was talking about it was somewhere in here, March of 2021, when the stock was trading for around $290, $300 per share, and then it took off. I couldn't really talk about it at all in here because I thought it was pretty overvalued at the time, and since then it hit $480 per share, which is massively overvalued in my opinion. And since then, it's come down quite a bit back into this buying range, currently sitting at 309, which does seem like a pretty decent value for this company. Lululemon recently announced that they aim to double their sales by 2026, and they're trying to expand into the male business, so we'll go over this article. Of course, we'll go into a little bit more detail on the technical analysis. We'll compare that to the NASDAQ, which Lululemon is a part of, and then of course we'll go over some possible trade ideas and some short-term options. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this as well as whole portfolio reviews every single week, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future content. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So let's see exactly how they plan to double their sales. They say by 2026 they expect to hit $12.5 billion in sales as the retailer rides the wave of pandemic-fueled growth. Athleisure and exercising at home definitely got some big moves higher due to the pandemic, and Lululemon definitely benefited from that. And in my opinion, that's what drove the stock price higher. But of course, that seems to be coming to an end. So let's see how they're going to do it. It says here they are teasing a monthly membership, which basically every company is trying to do at this point. Any way to get regular monthly revenue seems to be attractive at this point, and Lululemon is trying to tap into that. Say on Wednesday, they announced a handful of longer-term growth targets, specifically in the men's business, ahead of their scheduled Analyst Day, specifying three key drivers being product innovation, the consumer experience, the customer experience, and market expansion. They say they're going to double the men's section revenue, double digital sales, and quadruple international revenues all in the next 5 years, which is certainly some bold claims, but if they do execute, there's definitely some benefit to the investors. They say they remain early in their growth journey, and they're excited to take their growth strategies to the next level. The stock has been down pretty substantially on the year, as is everything else so far. When this article was written, it was still at 385, and as I just showed you, it's around 309 right now, despite the fact that the retailer grew sales in 2021 by around 40%, totaling around $6.25 billion in sales, which still is a pretty strong growth from the almost $4 billion that they sold in 2019. They say they've set goals like this before, like doubling the men's section, which they met 2 years ahead of schedule, which revenue ended up tripling from 2018 to 2022. They are also continuing to gain market share away from the likes of Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. Basically, they're doing everything right. They're innovating across multiple sectors around the globe and taking market share away from their biggest competitors all at the same time. And the question is, can they keep this up for the next 5 years and actually execute on doubling their revenue by 2026? Even the financial officer here says it's bold, but realistic. The company also plans to include their first ever footwear collection, further branching out into new sectors. And so far, in their marketing groups, the response to their new footwear has been incredible, in quotations. Lulu is definitely a company that is priced more like a software company and a high multiple growth company, but it seems like they've been executing on all fronts and continue to do so going forward with high goals. If they can execute, it seems like this stock can only go higher. Moving over here to the technical analysis, it's been a very long time since I've talked about Lulu, so let's go all the way back to the beginning. On the 1 week chart, you can see the all-time lows here were February of 2009 at $2.23. Obviously, if you bought the stock at that price, you'd probably be retired right now, depending on how much money you invested. But since then, it's basically been straight up. Topped out in the 2012s at around $82, went sideways for a very long time before breaking out of that area in 2018. And since then, it's resumed its uptrend pretty strongly. Right here, we have the COVID drop where it came all the way back down to 132 or so. And since then, it's rallied really aggressively all the way up to that 480, 41 all-time high price. And then we had a pretty solid downtrend coming back down into that 285 to 300 level. So it trades fairly similarly to the NASDAQ actually in terms of pricing. Got a little bit higher than the all-time high for the NASDAQ, but sitting similarly in terms of price at 309 and touching that 285 level. Moving over to the one-day chart, you can see you have very strong support right here at 290. It's engaged that level several times here in March as well as February, before having a pretty aggressive rally back up to that $400 level, coming back into 300 with a solid double bottom before we had a nice little bounce, maybe a triple bottom depending on how you're looking at it, if you include this as one touch. But February, again here in March, and then here in May, so a strong buying support here at 290. If we get a nice little rally in the rest of the indices like I'm expecting right now, I think there's definitely potential for the stock to get closer to that 350 level. I expect there to be some solid resistance around 350. I don't necessarily think we're going to retest this level at 400 the way that we did previously, but I think 350 has a pretty strong probability. And right now, it's a pretty good risk reward. So if we take out the lows, getting below that 290, that's about 10% downside from where we are right now. But if we go all the way up to that 350 level, that's about a 13% upside. So pretty strong risk reward. You, of course, can use different stop losses, but it's better than a one-to-one risk reward here, in my opinion, at least in the short term. Looking at this on the Tasty charts, just to give some perspective on the ATR ranges, you can see we did bottom out below the third ATR range here on the daily chart. After touching that upper range several times here through the end of March here into April, before we got that big move lower. And then if we do rally into that 350 level, that would be just about in the middle of the range, which is pretty conservative. You can see these lines here are rolling over, so that does give some downward potential. But if we did get a retest of maybe that first or that second ATR range, that would be somewhere between 360 and 380 based on the Tasty charts. So the 350 is a little bit conservative in my opinion based on these Tasty charts, but again, still gives that really solid risk reward. And you can see those three dips that we had here touching that lower ATR range before we had that push higher. Certainly it could go either way, but that is my perspective right now. I just want to quickly compare that to the NASDAQ. You can see here that February and March lows were closer to that 325 level, rallied up similarly to Lululemon, but the difference here is that the NASDAQ continued lower, whereas Lulu triple bottomed at that same price level where the NASDAQ continued lower. So you could certainly argue that Lulu is trading a little bit stronger right now than the NASDAQ is and has potential to outperform the market, at least in the short term. Moving over here to the possible trades on the short-term options chain, you can see the stock was trading at 307.50 or so. And on the weekly options, you can get around $900 in credit, so around 3% in credit, which would be a great weekly take if the stock rallies, or if it does dip down, that's effectively buying the stock at around $300 per share. Not quite that 290 that we expect to be the stronger support range. You can still sell those for around 1%, which is still pretty good on a week. And then looking at the volume, you can see pretty good volume here on the puts at 305. And then on the call side, there's definitely some stronger volume right around that 340 and 350 level. So 400, 134, and 100. Not a ton of volume, pretty low volume option stocks. So definitely be careful with those wider spreads compared to the NASDAQ. But understand where your support is. So definitely good support down here, 290, 287. Pretty decent here at 305. And then the resistance, strong resistance in my opinion, closer to that 340, 350 level. And then you can see even another pretty big number here at 360. So if we do get a good rally, don't expect it to break out to new highs or that this is going to be a new shift in the trend, but definitely some potential to make money. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of Lululemon. And if you like this kind of content, definitely check out my AMD video, another stock that is outperforming the NASDAQ right now, similarly to Lululemon. Definitely like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future content. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes, and have a great day.